Hello. I suggest you crochet a new beautiful openwork pattern. I will knit it from fine cotton yarn. I have 220 meters in 50 grams, and a knitting hook of 125 millimeters. We perform the first loop and tie a chain of 10 air loops. The first loop, the second, third, fourth, fifth, sixth, seventh, eighth, ninth and 10th air loop. Now we close the resulting chain into a ring, place a semicircle, insert the hook into the very first air loop and stretch the working loop through this first loop. At the same time, the tail is conveniently bent and remains in the middle of the next row. Then we perform one air loop of lifting to the next row and tie 16 columns without a cape into the resulting ring. The first column without a cape, the second, third, fourth, fifth, sixth, seventh, eighth, ninth, 10th, 11th, 12th, 13th, 14th, 15th and 16th columns without a cape. The tail at the same time remained in the middle of this row. Now we perform the connecting column. We insert the hook into the very first column without a cape, grab the loop, pull it through the main loop. To move to the next row, we will tie 7 air loops once, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, then 1 cape on the hook, and in the next loop we will tie a column with 1 cape. Next, we alternate 2 air loops, a column with 1 cape, 2 air loops, a column with 1 cape, so we tied a column with 1 cape into each loop of the base. In total we got 15 columns with 1 cape plus a chain of lifting. Now we tie the connecting column, insert the hook into the loop on the air chain on the corner, grab the loop and pull this loop through the main loop. We perform 1 air loop of lifting to the next row and between each columns, starting a hook under the chain, we will tie 3 columns without a cape. The first column without a cape, the second and third. The next arch is also the first column, the second column and the third column without a cape. We tied the columns in a circle without a cape. At the end we perform a connecting column. We insert the hook into the very first column without a cape, grab the loop and stretch this loop through the main loop. Now we will knit the next row. Let's tie a chain of 30 air loops. First, second, third, fourth, fifth, sixth, seventh, eighth, ninth, 10th, 11th, 12th, 13th, 14th, 15th, 16th, 17th, 18th, 19th, 20th, 21st, 22nd, 23rd, 24th, 25th, 26th, 27th, 28th, 29th and 30th air loop. Now we tie the column without a cape. Unfold the air chain so that it does not twist around the axis, and in the next loop of the base we tie the column without a cape, and once again we dial a chain of 30 air loops. We tied a chain of 30 air loops. Unfold the chain so that it does not twist around its axis, and in the next loop of the base we tie a column without a cape, and then we will alternate this way. A chain of 30 air loops, a column without a cape was placed in the next loop. They tied the whole row in a circle in this way, and as a result, such a wonderful beauty turns out. A column without a cape was tied into each loop of the base, after which a chain of 30 air loops was performed. In total, 48 such chains turned out. Then we will tie this beauty in a circle. First you need to make a transition to this row. We find a loop, we perform a connecting column in a column without a cape on the wrong side, we stretch the loop, stretched it through the main loop, then we tie 15 air loops for lifting. One, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10, 11, 12, 13, 14 and 15 are now positioned so that it is convenient to take this chain. That's how we tie 4 chains on the hook. The first, second, third, and fourth chain. Now we tie these chains from above with a column without a cape, tie them together, grab the loop, stretch the loop through all the chains, tie them together and tie 7 more columns without a cape. We start the hook here under the chains, we tie the first column, the second column, the third, fourth, fifth, sixth and seventh column without a cape. It can be tightened so that these columns would be located in the middle of the air chain. Then we perform 6 air loops 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6. We find the following air chains, the first chain, the second, the third and the fourth chain. We will also tie these chains with columns without a cape. First we tie them together, then starting the hook here under the air chains, we will tie 7 columns without a cape. The first, second, third, fourth, fifth, sixth, and seventh column without a cape. We also place these columns in the middle and perform 6 air loops. One, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, and we find the next 4 arches of air loops. The first, second, third, and fourth. And we will also tie these 4, as well as the previous ones. Tied in this way in a circle at the end, it remains to tie the last arch of 6 air loops, but the working loop should remain on its tip. Therefore, we perform 3 air loops, 1 cape on the hook, and in the very first column without a cape we tie a column with 1 cape. That's how the last arch turned out. Then, to move to the next row, we will tie a column without a cape under this arch, then we perform 1 air loop, 1 cape on the hook, and in the next loop of the base on the first petal we tie a column with 1 cape. On top of the columns, we perform a picot of 3 air loops. 3 air loops, a connecting column to the base, then 1 air loop, 1 cape on the hook, in the next loop we tie a column with 1 cape, from above we perform a picot of 3 air loops, 3 air loops, a connecting column to the base, and so on, an air loop, a column with 1 cape, a picot of 3 air loops. We tied 6 columns with 1 cape in this way, having completed 6 picots from above. At the end, we also performed 1 air loop. Now in the middle of the arch we will tie a column without a cape, 1 air loop, 1 cape on the hook, and we will tie the next petal into the next arch in the same way. We perform 6 columns with 1 cape, a picot of 3 air loops on top, and 1 air loop between the columns. They tied all the petals to the end. At the end they made a connecting column and cut the thread. The tails were tucked in, and the result is such a beauty. I haven't figured out where to apply such a motif yet. If you have an idea, please write in the comments. Thank you for your attention. I wish you creative success, obedient loops, and all the best. Thank you very much for the warm and pleasant words in the comments. Let's knit together.